Vocal synthesizers are a tool that, in theory, can be useful with any musical genre. In practice, however, you see some represented more than others. A robotic-sounding voice naturally complements electronic music, while the fact that East Asia dominates the scene means that very American genres like country and western were always going to be relatively rare. There's no shortage of Vocaloid rock music, but to be dubbed a Vocarock producer is still a point of distinction. As best I can tell, that term originated with a series of compilation albums of the same name by Farm Records, the first of which came out in July of 2010. These albums have featured some truly legendary creators, folks like Woaka, Jin, Neru, and Utsupi. But today I'd like to talk about an artist who is on the periphery of this series. Though his only contribution was as an arranger for one track on the fourth album, with none of his own compositions making the cut, he's nonetheless had a storied career in both the vocal synth world and the wider J-rock scene since his debut more than 15 years ago. This is Happy Synthesizers, covering Ichirokuyon, also known as 164. Before I get into the meat of the episode, I should clarify about the name. My instinct as a native English speaker is to read those numerals as 164, but that's not quite right. His real name is Takemoto Hiroshi, and his producer alias is a pun on that name. We already know from Hatsune Miku's 3-9 thing how numbers, like any Japanese words that can be written in kanji, have more than one pronunciation depending on the context. Though the name Hiroshi is written with different kanji from those corresponding to the numbers, it's still pronounced as if it were written with the characters for 1, 6, and 4, which are, in turn, read as Ichirokuyon in the context of the producer name. That said, in the 2018 tweet in which he explained the meaning behind his name, he also invited readers to call him Hiroshi, which I'm going to be doing from here on out. I'd like to think that I've got at least a decent grasp of Japanese pronunciation, but I'll spare myself tripping over my own tongue where I can. So, Takemoto Hiroshi hails from Yamaguchi Prefecture, which is the easternmost part of the biggest Japanese island, Honshu. His birthday is March 10th, though the year isn't specified in his website bio, and he first discovered Vocaloid in 2008. By his own account, given for a multi-creator interview in the lead-up to Hatsune Miku's 10th anniversary in 2017, he'd wanted to get started as an independent musician for a while at the time, but he couldn't sing, and stumbled upon Vocaloid while looking for a way to make do. A digital singer was such a perfect solution that it almost felt tailor-made for his situation. A, quote, fateful event that happens once in a million years when all the planets in the solar system are aligned. 2008 was drowning in brilliant new Hatsune Miku originals, but the specific song that convinced Hiroshi to buy the voice bank for himself was actually a cover. Specifically, a song called Dearest, originally by a human singer named Ayumi Hamasaki. Producer Yukis, best known for the Meiko song Nostalgic, tuned Miku for the Dearest cover so well that Hiroshi couldn't initially tell whether she was a synth or a human. To quote him again, "If it weren't for this video, I'm sure I wouldn't be here now." Thus inspired, Hiroshi uploaded his first Miku song, Shining Ray, to Nico Video on September 28, 2008. Now, few songwriters make much of a splash with their first work, but Shining Ray was a decent little hit, and cracked 100,000 views pretty quickly. That may not sound like much if you're used to the kind of crazy virality you get on today's YouTube, but 100K is the threshold to be added to the Vocaloid Hall of Fame listing on Nico Video. Shining Ray was thus the jumping-off point for a steady stream of moderately popular songs through the next few years. Of these early releases, the most notable is probably his third work, Sleeping Beauty, released December 4th, 2008. Though this also originally featured Miku, its popularity got a huge boost from a cover by the utaite Aki Akane, who not only sang the song, but also animated a music video for it too. This alone would have been enough to get some attention. Anyone who's seen her iconic video for Wowaka's Rolling Girl knows what an amazing illustrator she is. But I'd be remiss not to give equal credit to her vocal performance. Aki Akane's nickname among her fans while she was still active as a singer was the Screaming Cinderella, due to her tendency to, well, scream. Miku sounds pretty solid in the original considering it's her original V2 bank and not one of her more powerful appends that came later. But Aki Akane's intense, almost desperate-sounding performance was like a whole new song. It quickly outpaced the original upload's view count, but it also dragged it up along with it. Hiroshi's first really big song was also a collaborative effort, albeit a much more deliberate one. I mentioned at the top that Hiroshi had arranged another artist's song featured in Vocarock. That was 40 Meter P's Torinoko City with Hatsune Miku, released July 29, 2010. Their first joint songwriting effort followed less than 2 months later, with September's Time Machine. Also featuring Miku on vocals, 40MP wrote the music while Hiroshi gave the lyrics, with arrangements and tuning split between them. 1640m-P, as I'm optimistically pronouncing it, were well received on both Nico Nico and 40MP's new YouTube channel. Time Machine entered the Vocaloid Hall of Legend, a step up from the Hall of Fame reserved for 1 million views, in 2013. However, incalculably more people heard Time Machine when it was licensed to appear in concert for the first time as part of Miku Party Live on March 9, 2011. The song is since featured in many more concerts in nearly a dozen different cities, the most recent of which were July 2024's Miku With You concert trilogy in China. Time Machine has also proven a popular choice for rhythm games. The obvious example is the Miku-centric Project Diva series, whose music video for this song has always been one of my favorites from them. Miku got a custom module designed by the song's original illustrator, Guitar, who also made a special illustration for the song's loading screen in Project Diva F. And the song has also been licensed by third parties, including Ongeki Bright and Bright Memory, several entries in Konami's Sound Voltec series, the mobile game Poppin' Rhythm-In, and most recently, the juggernaut that is Project Sekai Colorful Stage. Project Sekai features both the original Miku version and a cover by in-game band Leonid, both of which went live on the Japanese server on February 10th, 2021. This wouldn't be Hiroshi's only appearance in Project Sekai, but I'll get back to that later. 1640MP would release one more Miku song together a year after the first, titled Future Line. This time, Hiroshi handled the composition, while 40MP contributed lyrics. I get the impression that the song is a sequel of sorts to Time Machine, exploring a lot of the same themes about memories and the passage of time. It's never been nearly as popular as its predecessor, but it's well worth a listen. All the songs I've mentioned so far have featured Hatsune Miku, and that's partly because Hiroshi just got in on the game early. He released his first song before even the Kagamines had been released. But as more voice banks have become available, Hiroshi has widened his roster. When he made his official YouTube channel to match his Nico video in 2012, his first few uploads included names like Gumi, Mayu, and even a human singer called Nanba44 on the channel's second ever song, Tsuyumero. I'm pretty sure that it was his first time working with a human performer like that, and though it's one of his least viewed songs, I really liked it. It's grounded in Hiroshi's usual guitar riffs, but he's also layered in synths and auto-tuned the vocals to create a sort of dreamy pop sound, similar to Sasakura Yuke's work actually. But if Hiroshi is known for working with any one Vocaloid, it's Gumi, and that's thanks in large part to a song called Ama no Jaku, often translated as A Born Coward. Originally uploaded to Nico Video on May 28, 2011, and then a few years later on YouTube following a remaster, this song is Hiroshi's most popular work by a considerable margin. Gumi takes the role of a shy, skeptical girl who overthinks her feelings until she fears that love will pass her by, cursing herself all the while as a coward, hiding behind insincere words. If I'm to be a little more honest than our heroine, I don't love Gumi's tuning on the original. There's nothing wrong with it, it's just not really my taste. However, that's a minor complaint, absolutely nothing compared to how much I love this song overall. Because the thing is, Ama no Jaku could have been a much simpler construction and gotten about the same vibe across. 3 chords and a loud voice will capture teenage heartbreak just fine if you've got the attitude for it. But Hiroshi went with a much more complex and intricate composition. Not every songwriter can pull off a switch to waltz time for a few bars of the pre-chorus out of nowhere, but it works perfectly to throw the listener off balance before the chorus hits like a hurricane. Repeatedly, Hiroshi pulled back at the right moments to make the biggest outbursts feel even more resonant, and our understanding of how much our cowardly protagonist has been holding back is that much deeper. And though Gumi's singing isn't my favorite, there's no shortage of other performances I can listen to instead. For starters, Hiroshi himself has put out multiple versions of the song. There's an official English version with Megurine Luca from 2012 that is, honestly, pretty clunky, but gold star for effort. And then, in December of that year, Ama no Jaku served as a demo song for the new Vocaloid Mayu. Mayu is an interesting little tangent on her own, since she's the one and only voice bank released by Exit Tunes. Now, these guys, who have since rebranded as Exit Music Publishing, are a subsidiary of the much bigger Japanese publishing company Pony Canyon. Exit Tunes is probably best known for their compilation albums, which have licensed music from both Vocaloid producers and Utaite cover artists. Hiroshi's work is featured in several of these compilations, but he also chose to release his own albums through Exit Tunes. And circling back to Ama no Jaku, the alternate versions aren't limited just to Vocaloid covers. A lot of human singers have put their own spin on this song, and interestingly, this is a trend that's picked up in recent years. Ama no Jaku is more than 10 years old now, and plenty of people did sing it at the time, but if you look the song up on YouTube, you'll find countless covers from just the last 2 or 3 years. You can at least partly credit this song's longevity to its licensing to various third parties, keeping things fresh with a new release on a pretty regular basis. It's been in a dozen different compilation albums, a handful of fan-made Miku Miku Dance hologram concerts, and a truly staggering number of rhythm games across several franchises, including a cover by Afterglow for Bang Dream and, once more, Leonid for Project Sekai. That last one alone has definitely helped to revitalize interest, given the overall popularity of the game, but my personal all-time favorite performance slightly predates it. I mentioned in my Halloween episode my abiding love for the singer Raon, and her version of Ame no Jaku is a knockout performance, even for her. I'll link to every song I mentioned, but if nothing else, give this one a listen. And there's one last bit of trivia before I shut up about this one song. The original project file for it no longer exists. On February 18th, 2024, Hiroshi tweeted a picture of an old Western Digital hard drive and mournfully reported its demise, which had wiped out several of his older songs, including Ame no Jaku. There isn't really any point to bringing it up, since it's not as if the song itself has vanished, but I felt bad for the guy. It sucks when your backup fails. The other song he mentioned by name in the tweet was called Blue, which Hiroshi created as part of a promotional album packaged with Mayu's release in 2012. Since Mayu's never been the most popular Vocaloid out there, Hiroshi is easily one of the most notable creators to use her voice bank. There's Mr. Deja Vu, which was commissioned for the Exit Tunes compilation Vocalo Sensation, and Hiroshi's 2013 album Blurry features Mayu on no fewer than 8 tracks. Blurry, along with pretty much all of his major releases, was created through the efforts of 203 Soundworks, Hiroshi's Dojin songwriting circle. The name comes from adding up 164 and 39, in reference to Hatsune Miku. The group consists of both Hiroshi's fellow musicians, who might contribute anything from instrument performances to mixing and mastering, and the illustrators and editors who provide videos for Hiroshi's songs. For example, if you look at the credits for his 2014 album This Is Vocarock, which included fresh remasters of pretty much all of his big hits up to that point, you'll see a few fairly high-profile names. YM, the producer behind the Gumi hit Ten Faced, contributed a bass performance for the remaster of Shining Ray, and the acoustic guitarist of Samurai-san, who I've been a fan of almost as long as I've been listening to Vocaloid at all, is on the track Bouquet Placed Here Right Now. I'm sure that title is a bit more eloquent in Japanese. As for his virtual collaborators, Hiroshi's tried out quite a few voice banks over the years. He's released at least one song each with V-Flower, Kagami ni Rin and Len, Meguri ni Luca, Otomachi Una, and more recently, several different Chevio voice banks. However, Gumi remains his most frequent choice, including for his next biggest solo hits behind Ame no Jaku. One of these is the song Zankyo, or Reverberation. This was a commission for the online 3 vs 3 mobile battle game #Compass, which was created as a collaboration between NHN PlayArt, Dwango, and Nico Nico Doga. Zankyo serves as a theme song for the character Oka Tadaomi, and it's one of more than a dozen such theme songs created by popular vocal synth creators, most of whom favor a rock sound like Hiroshi. If you're a regular vocal synth listener, there's a decent chance you've heard some of them already. There's Police Piccadilly's Kiri Carry On, Three's Lavi, Kairiki Bear's Alkali Underachiever and Underachieving Lover, and my personal favorite of the bunch, Niki's Grave. Though Compass is a fighting game, Zankyo has proven popular enough to also be licensed to rhythm games like Chunithan and Taiko no Tatsujin. It also featured on Hiroshi's December 2018 album LVIIV, and once more, that's me throwing in the towel with pronunciation. The title looks like it should be Roman numerals, but it doesn't translate to a proper number. Regardless, this album also included a new 1640MP collab called Hated Season with Gumi, a song called Jumble Jungle, which was his first work with Kagami Len, and a 10-year anniversary remaster of Shining Ray. That was Hiroshi's most recent album, but that doesn't mean he hasn't been keeping busy since. Hiroshi is decently active on Twitter, but like most vocal OPs, he's pretty private overall. He did grant us a glimpse into his personal life fairly recently with a very moving post about the loss of his grandmother in the spring of 2024. And on a similar, albeit much more positive note, he also used Twitter to announce the births of his daughter and his son in 2018 and 2023 respectively, with a close-up photo of their tiny newborn hands. He also put up a photo when his son had his first birthday last year, hiding his face for privacy's sake, but showing his little fuzzy jacket and stuffed dog. It was super cute, but I'm a softie for baby pictures. I'd be saying that about a picture of the kid's shoes. More importantly, though, it made me realize that by pure coincidence, the pre-scheduled release date of this episode lines up with Hiroshi's son's second birthday. So, happy birthday, kiddo. Your dad makes awesome music. Besides these occasional personal posts, the best part of Hiroshi's Twitter is, in my opinion, the occasional frustrated tweet that he makes that are all variations on the theme of, Elon Musk, you bastard. As someone who deleted my Twitter account and now only bothers with the website to research/cyberstalk musicians, I feel as though Hiroshi gets me, on a spiritual level. Getting back to the actual topic of Hiroshi's music, his next song to crack the Hall of Legends was Kyosha no Koshin, or The Madman's March with Gumi, published May 3rd, 2019. It's got my favorite music video out of all of his songs. I'm a sucker for imagery of angels and devils, so it's already suited to my taste, but it was animated by the artist Yasutatsu, so there was really no going wrong. Yasutatsu's done a lot of work with artists like Utsupi and Shudo, and he's probably best known for the iconic video for the latter's Bitter Choco decoration. The following year, 2020, saw two more Gumi songs, titled Under My Identity and About This Trouble, as well as a song called Link with a human singer, idol VTuber Hinayama Mona. Link was written for her after she was selected through a promotional event on the live streaming platform Topia, and it's another of Hiroshi's more pop-influenced works. Makes sense for an idol. And then, in 2021, we circle once more back to Project Sekai. The original songs written for Project Sekai are generally made to tie in with one character in particular, as part of their ongoing story segments unlocked by gameplay. Hiroshi Song 1 was released for the Japanese server on April 21st, 2021 as the first focus song for the character Shiho Hinomori. She serves as the bass guitarist for the fictional band Leonid, which are also the ones that covered the other two of Hiroshi's songs that are in the game. Accordingly, the song features a lot of interesting bass features and flourishes. The human singers of Leonid sing with Vocaloid Megarine Luca for the game version of the song, and Luca sings solo on Hiroshi's own release, which I think was his first time working with her. In another first, Hiroshi decided to make a live-action music video for this release, rather than sticking with the vocal synth standard of an animated video. He partnered with director Matsuoka Kosuke, along with a small production team and 4 actresses to portray the Leonid girls. I couldn't find a specific lighting tech credited, but the filmmaking nerd in me got kind of fixated on the video's use of light. It seems to mostly just be natural sunlight, but it's bright and overexposed like some kind of gauzy dream sequence in the indoor shots of the girls having fun in the classroom. But then it's faded to a sunset backlight for the shots of the band playing together on the roof. I don't know how much of that was, intentional and artistic, and how much of it was just them working with what they had as a small crew, but it really lends to the very warm, nostalgic feeling of the song. We're coming up on 4 years since the release of 1, and Hiroshi's done a lot of experimenting with new voices in that time, particularly with Chevio and Voicona. He got advanced access to Kafu's voice bank to release the song Zenbu 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 shortly ahead of her public release, though it isn't listed as one of her official demo songs. He's also released songs with One, Rime, and Coco, the last of which was an official demo, titled Ember and released December 19th, 2022. He also wrote a song for the November 2022 compilation album Una Chance 2 with Otomachi Una, and worked with some more human singers, including 2 songs for the 7-member idol group Charlie. Only some of these songs were published on his own channel, so I had to do some digging to make sure I hadn't missed any. I also couldn't get his Twitter to display chronologically because, again, I don't have my own account anymore. But I'm pretty sure his most recent music-related post came on September 23rd, 2024, in which he announced that he'd written a song called Tokyo Lit for the male VTuber Watarai Hibari. Hiroshi spoke about trying to evoke the cool atmosphere of city shade at the end of the summer to bring out the nuances of Watarai's character. And he also joked that the guitar solo might be a little too loud since he'd enjoyed playing it so much. Now, I'm not remotely in touch with the VTuber scene, and I'd never heard of Watarai Hibari until I was already halfway through writing the script, but the song's great. Hiroshi has often favored feminine voice banks and singers, but I sure wouldn't complain if he started working with more guys like this going forward. And as of recording, Hiroshi's most recent 2 songs to use Vocaloid specifically have both been released as part of multi-producer storytelling series. The first was February 2023's Phoenix with Gumi, the second song in Artist No's Raison d'etre series. Made up of 6 songs by 6 different artists, the series is based around character themes like those used in Compass, each focused on characters No designed based off of mythological creatures. The Phoenix, obviously, but also stuff like mermaids, vampires, and a few others. Though I don't always like Hiroshi's tuning style, as with Ame no Jaku, I really like how Gumi sounds here. I don't know if it's reflective of all the voice bank upgrades she's had since 2011, or just a shift in Hiroshi's approach, but she sounds strong here. As a Phoenix should, really. The second series contribution, and the most recent of Hiroshi's works to be released on his own channel, is the song Jigoku, or Hell, with Kagamine Rin and Len. It's the 27th song of the Kotonoha project, a supernatural-themed multimedia story created to tie in with the Sega rhythm game Mai Mai. Jigoku also got a release with human performers, like the rest of the Kotonoha songs, and the version with singers Elisa and Kobayashi Taro went live on Hiroshi's channel at the same time as the Vocaloid one. There's a lot going on in this series, with a large cast of characters and 2 so-called seasons with different settings and stories for each, neither of which have been fully translated into English. Because of that, I can't really say how Hiroshi's song fits into the plot of Season 2. which it shares with songs by artists like Maritu, Shiudo, 3, and Yuri Cannon. But the song stands on its own. The Hiroshi has long favored a sort of cleaner post-punk sound. Jigoku takes considerable influence from heavy metal, and I think it works really well. The human versions of the first season of Kotonoha were compiled for an album released in August of 2019, but there's no sign yet of when or if that'll happen for Hiroshi and his Season 2 cohorts. Likewise, Hiroshi hasn't given any indication of an album of his own on the way, though he's got plenty of material for it by now. I'm sure it's a little bit more complicated from a copyright standpoint when so much of his work has been commissioned by other people, but putting these all together would make for a really interesting and varied album. I mean, Hiroshi has never strayed too far from his roots, ever the overthinking Les Paul enthusiast who's always ready to return to his older songs for another go. But if you listen to his newer works in succession, as I've done a lot the last few weeks, you can hear the cues he's taken from his various creative partners. From, again, the metal influence on a very heavy fantasy song, to just having to adapt to various vocal quirks for different singers and voice banks. It's always the same Ichirokuyon je ne sais quoi, but he's also never allowed himself the luxury of stagnating with it. So however long we may have to wait for this hypothetical next album, or even just the next song, I know I'm sure looking forward to it. 39 big thank yous for listening, everyone. If you haven't yet, follow this pod, leave a review if you're feeling generous, and check out linktree/Happy Synthesizers to find the full suite of social media, listening platforms, transcripts, and sources documents. Happy Synthesizers is written and performed by Kay Judson. The theme music is Evan Polka, arranged with inspiration from Lloyd Tuma and Automania.